Gundam.tk presents High Grade Anksha. What's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2 R's 2 B's from Gundam Reviews.net, and the SD universe has nothing to do with what's been going on in High Grade Universal Century and specifically in Unicorn, but you've already seen the unbox and the parts, so let's put this Anksha together and check it out. And when the Jesta is done joking around, you can see the Anksha all put together. And I've got to say right off the hop that this is one of the coolest looking MS designs that I think I've ever seen out of any of the universes in Gundam. But for Universal Century, it's such a great homage while at the same time taking things forward in terms of design and sensibility. And it's just going to look ridiculous, large, and very green on your shelf. So right away, I think Bandai hit a home run just in terms of the visuals that we're seeing right here, even without any of the weapons on there. In terms of practicality, however, those feet are going to be a little bit awkward for it to be standing up there. The high heels don't necessarily go well with this. Flat feet can be a little bit of a challenge, and he's going to have a little bit of back weight issues. And you can see that just with this very little surface area touching the ground that you're going to have to be pretty careful. But then again, your eye is going to be drawn to that upper body with those great shoulders, that unique head, and at the same time down to these flaps on the side, or at the bottom on the side of the legs. Just too bad that they are not done in plastic instead of with seals. In terms of posability, well, yeah, you can do that, I suppose, and you're going to be able to move the skirts forward, so you can take this, and you can see that the knee part there is going to go impale him in the chest. These side skirts, remember, are attached onto the legs. They've got nothing to do with the body, but that means you're going to have a lot of difficulty if you try to do anything with these legs off to the side, because they are just on a single ball joint. You're going to get a nice bend, though, with the knees, almost 180 degrees there, over 135, and the ankles, as mentioned, are going to move well forward and back, but off to the side, you're not getting it all that much. And you're going to have to be careful that you don't bend these down and get even less surface area attached to the ground. Upper body now, where you're going to be able to twist the whole body around, I suppose, if you wanted to. And remember, these chest parts are just going to open up for the transformation, nothing to do with this. You may have seen earlier that these shoulders have a good range of motion going all the way up and down there. Makes it a little bit problematic here to put them on. But outside of that, between the shoulders and the green parts, which are going to move on a polycap as well, and these, you can pretty much get these things anywhere. You can rotate the arm around there, you can pivot it there at the shoulder, and you can get the arms up here. Let's see what they're going to bend. They're going to bend very, very well, despite the fact that you've got the shoulder part that you'd think they'd bump into. And of even more interest is the fact that the head here is going to be moving. If you can see it, it's sliding forward and back. I'd say it looks a little bit cooler forward, but then again, just having that option on something this unique is pure win. Now, with his main weapons on in the form of the binders here, actually, usually when you're going to add on the big backpack or something to a Gundam, you're going to be getting all sorts of, it just should add to the already cool body design. And I think that this one does a pretty good job of, keeping that circle motif there as you've got the rounded binders there to go along with the rounded shoulders. But overall, I think that the whole thing is now looking just a little bit too busy, perhaps. And I've got to say that I sort of liked him even better when he was just in MS mode there previously, without those on the sides, although of course that's going to be a matter of personal preference. Straight on to the comparisons though, where you can see that this is going to be a Transformer 80s style, well, from Zeta, certainly influenced by it. And back then kits were big, and you can imagine that even with the HGUC Destroy Mode version of the Unicorn here, that it is hulked out, it's still going to be quite a bit smaller. Never mind the fact that it's got much smaller shoulders and much smaller arms there. And even just with the fact that it's got those little winglings down on its ankles, certainly makes the Anksha look a much larger beast here. And next to a more average-sized Gundam here, you've got the Mark II in real grade form, 1/144th, and even though his legs are just bent a little bit there, you can still see how much this is going to tower over most of your 18-19 meter variety. And in terms of its fellow Earth Federation, you can again just see the size, and it makes perfect sense that when this is transformed that you'd be able to take a smaller MS like that or a Jagan and throw it on its back. And just to illustrate how large this is a 1/100th kit here on the right. I'm talking about the Zolidia from Victory Gundam, which of course in the future of the Universal Century, kits and MSs were getting a lot smaller, but despite their differences in scale, you can just see how much of a monster this one is. In terms of ground posing, it was frustrating even just getting him into a pose like this. By moving the legs apart, you just start to notice again just how finicky those heels are, and the fact that you've got these moving parts there on the front. Basically, this guy seems like he's going to be that much better as soon as he gets up in the air. Although I seem to be having even more luck with just 3 points of contact there, including the tiptoes over here on the left foot. And you can bring those binders across in quite a few different ways. They're not quite going to be as cool as the beam savers though, however. Unconstrained by his need to have 3 or 4 points touching the ground, and this is with the 1/144th base that's included, the non-Superman one, and the extender in there. All of a sudden you can get a lot more twists and those legs are going to look a little bit more dynamic, it seems. The bending down of the knees is going to help. That flap over there, it really adds a lot of color and sort of just dynamicism to it. And the fact that you can twist those arms in so many cool ways and you can still have those shoulders being up, round, and Ashimar looking certainly makes this guy look like a lot of fun. For the transformation, you pop out the manipulators and have the body, and when you do that, you're going to twist the legs there, bring up the front skirts, bring this up, make sure that the knees are nice and flush there, and just flatten out the feet as much as you can. For the upper body, you open up the chest part here, barn door style, and then pop this off. Upper body now, where you're going to attach on this attachment part here, which is going to form a 90 where the waist used to be, and then you're going to bring these parts forward, nothing too fancy there. You could fiddle with those green ones, I suppose, and you can bend these thrusters up this way. Then you'll take the backpack and bend this down, and then it's on to the most fun part, I think, of the whole thing, sealing up the donut. You're going to take these arms, and you'll notice that there's these little pegs here that you're going to attach onto either side, and once you get the arms in and attached down there, this donut is beginning to look tasty here, and it's pretty satisfying the way that it all clicks together. It's also very cool that they allowed some space here for these thin little flaps to go in, but all you have to do then is turn the head, and then you can open this up, which I should have mentioned earlier. And if you do things the right way, there's a nice little notch there that you can plug the head into, and you've actually got something that feels surprisingly solid, despite the fact that we're just talking about a ring. It would probably look even cooler if you just close that up. And if you pop on the side binders and then add on the legs and bring that part forward there, you'll notice that you've got the attachment point. And all of a sudden I think you've got one of the coolest homages to the Ashimar, the Abyss, and just pretty much everything else that's, whether it's designed for water or space or sky. This thing is actually looking pretty cool, and that's done for a few reasons that Bandai included. First of all, these white little parts, you can see that the seals are coming up, yes. But you've got the flaps there designed to be on the front, the seal coming up there. You've got them on the front, you've got them on the sides, and you've got them on the binders, and I think that's really going to work. But the overall combination of the two greens and the gray, I think, is great. You can see thrusters in all the right places. And again, it's just all about this unique part. I wasn't too crazy about the binders on the MS, but here I think it really helps add to the overall donut effect that you've got there, so that it's not just a flying saucer. And compared to a lot of other Gundams that are going to look like they're just bent over when they're flying Superman style like this, the legs do a half-decent job of hiding the fact they're legs, and that upper body is completely unrecognizable thanks to the fact that it can go inside armadillo style. And here's a shot of the top where you can see that it's got a pretty good surface there if you're trying to put an MS on its back, whooshing off into aerial battle. Which they make easy with these hand grips and this connector point, which should work with any recent HGUC or other Type 1/144th. And these gray parts on the back start to make sense, and the feet don't really get in the way with these green parts, but you can stretch the head up enough, and actually the open hand is going to look pretty cool. I could have kept the beam rifle in hand, but this is actually looking like a pretty cool way for mobile suits to get aerial and start fighting, or certainly more realistic than I'd suppose some other things we've seen in other Gundam series. And I think the overall effect here is pretty positive. You've got these gray parts on the back, which are going to be perfect knee rests, and the feet are going to bend up to get out of the way of these green things in the back. I've just got an open hand here, which is going to look pretty good, and I could have kept the beam rifle in hand over here. You could have been shooting forward. The head isn't necessarily going to come up enough, but then again, it looks like a pretty realistic way to get into aerial battle, at least more so than we've seen in some other non-Universal Century animes. Well, let's see who's going to win here. And it's already over. So that's going to wrap up my look at the mobile suit and the transformation here for the Anksha, but don't forget to stick around for the verdict where I'll have a list of good and bad things. But why don't you let me know, what do you think of the MS, the transformation, the seals, and everything else with a comment below? And of course, stay tuned for the next and final parts. Anyway, everybody, as always, thanks for watching. See you next time. All that's missing is Captain Kirk in a shellcraft, seeing it for the first time. Again. Remember the ridiculous ending to G Gundam? Yes, this doesn't seem that far out of place.